The night's sole breeze felt colder than usual, as if the city itself sensed something was about to break. Rain clung to the streets in thin silver lines, sliding down glass towers and neon signs, until everything glowed like a blurred painting. In the middle of that glow, a woman ran, her breath sharp, her curls bouncing in the wind, her hands trembling as she pressed a folder against her chest. Nia Anderson didn't usually break rules. She didn't even breathe too loudly around rich people. But tonight, she had seen something she wasn't supposed to see, something that made her heart slam against her ribs. She stopped under a narrow awning outside the back entrance of the Housekeeper Group's luxury penthouse tower. Her mother worked there as a housekeeper. Nia helped sometimes, cleaning late-night halls or sorting laundry for extra pay. Nothing dangerous, nothing special. But 5 minutes ago, while returning a tray from the 62nd floor, she saw two men in suits quietly step into the restricted conference room. She wasn't trying to listen. She wasn't trying to hide. But the door wasn't fully closed, and the voices drifted out like poison smoke. Swap the folder. Now, before he gets here. They didn't notice her. Not really. One glanced her way, but in the cold eyes of wealthy men, she was invisible. The housekeeper's daughter, the help's kid, the foreign girl. Except she wasn't invisible tonight, because when they left, she saw the original contract they had thrown aside. And when she picked it up, she froze. It wasn't a small swap. It was betrayal against the owner of the entire building, against a man whose name the staff whispered like a warning or a prayer. Baek Do-won, the Korean Mafia boss, the hidden power behind Housekeeper Group, the man employees bowed deeper for, spoke soft around, and never, ever lied to. But someone had just switched his contract. Someone had just set him up. Thunder rolled across the sky, slow and deep, as if it were answering her heartbeat. Nia looked at the paper, looked at the new, fake folder left behind, looked at the elevator she wasn't allowed to enter, and then she made the most reckless decision of her life. She took the real folder and ran. Her fingers shook as she clutched it like it could burn her palms. She had no idea what was inside. She didn't understand half the corporate Korean terms, but she knew enough. It was a land acquisition contract, and the numbers were wrong. The signatures had been forged. Someone was moving against Do-won from inside his own empire. Someone dangerous. The wind whipped at her coat as she stood outside, catching her breath, her heart a trapped bird inside her chest. She should go home. Pretend she saw nothing. Pretend she didn't exist. But a voice echoed in her head. Her mother's voice. When you see wrong, you don't look away, Nia. Even if the world tells you you're small. Small, that was the problem. She was just a 23-year-old girl in a foreign country, cleaning rich people's floors. Laughable, replaceable, breakable. And yet she turned around, because she had to tell him. Even if her hands shook, even if her voice cracked, even if a man like him could destroy her life with one look. She stepped toward the private elevator, reserved only for top executives. And him, it had no buttons on the outside, only a scanner and a camera. The scanner beeped when she approached, recognizing her mother's ID card clipped to her shirt. The doors opened. The elevator hummed as it rose, each floor passing with a cold metallic whisper. Her reflection blurred against the mirrored walls, wide brown eyes, rain-kissed skin, curls damp at the edges. Fear painted every line of her face, but beneath it was something else. Something that looked a lot like courage, or stupidity. She wasn't sure. When the elevator reached the 63rd floor, the door slid open into a long marble hallway. Soft, warm light glowed from fixtures shaped like lotus petals. The air smelled faintly of sandalwood and snow, clean, expensive, and dangerously quiet. Her footsteps echoed too loudly. She approached the double doors of the private penthouse office. The cold gold handle gleamed under her fingers as she pushed it open. And there he was. Baek Do-won didn't look up at first. He stood by the floor-to-ceiling window. Seoul's entire skyline stretched beneath him. He wore all black, shirt, trousers, coat, and the rain outside painted a silhouette in silver. His presence filled the room in a way that made Nia feel like a single breath in a storm. When he finally turned toward her, She almost forgot how to stand. He was beautiful in the most dangerous way. Sharp jaw, dark eyes that carried shadows, and a stillness that made the air feel heavy. A man carved by secrets and violence, yet refined enough to rule corporations with a whisper. His eyes locked onto hers. She froze. "What?" he said, his voice low and beautifully lethal. "Are you doing in my office?" Her throat tightened. She swallowed. "I saw something," she whispered. "And I think someone's trying to betray you." His expression didn't change, but the air grew colder. "Come closer." Her feet moved on their own. Her heartbeat felt loud enough to fill the entire skyline. She held out the folder, her hands trembling. When he reached for it, his fingers brushed hers. Only for a second, but the contact sent a shock through her. He looked at the documents, then at the fake folder she barely managed to explain, then back at her. "Where did you find this?" Her voice barely escaped her throat. "Outside the conference room, on the 62nd floor. Two men switched the contract. I don't know who they were." His jaw tightened. "Why didn't you walk away? Why bring it to me?" She blinked, because it was wrong. For the first time, something like surprise flickered across his eyes, but it faded quickly, replaced by a slow, dangerous calm. "You realize," he said softly, stepping closer, "that by coming here, you may have put yourself in the middle of something that could kill you." The rain outside thickened, sliding down the glass like tears. "I know," she whispered. He studied her, his gaze tracing the fear she wasn't hiding, the courage she didn't realize she had, the way her breath shook but her voice didn't break. Then he spoke a single sentence that felt like the beginning of something she couldn't name. "From this moment forward," he said, "you don't leave my protection." Her breath caught, because protection from a mafia boss wasn't safety. It was a promise, a claim, a warning. Before she could answer, the elevator alarm blared, sharp, sudden, slicing through the air. Unauthorized access detected. Someone else was coming. Duwan's eyes darkened as he stepped in front of her, his hand sliding inside his coat for a weapon she couldn't see. And Naya realized, whatever she had stepped into wasn't just betrayal. It was war, and she had just become the reason it started. If this story has you on edge, like and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. The elevator alarm kept shrieking, sharp and metallic, echoing down the marble hallway like a warning that arrived too late. Naya felt her pulse hammering through her palms. Duwan didn't move at first. He simply stood there, eyes fixed on elevator doors, his posture shifting from calm authority to lethal silence. "Stay behind me," he said. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. But the command slid through the air with the way of a man who was used to being obeyed without question. Naya didn't argue. She couldn't. Her knees already felt weak. The lights above flickered once, then steadied. The elevator descended from the 62nd floor, its soft hum barely audible under the alarm. Duwan's hand was already inside his coat, fingers curling around something heavy. When his coat shifted, Naya glimpsed it. A matte black pistol. Silent. Precise. The kind used for killing, without leaving a sound. He didn't take it out. Not yet. Only positioned himself like a dark shield in front of her, blocking her from whoever was coming. The elevator slowed. Stopped. The doors opened. A man stepped out. Tall. Slim. A corporate badge clipped to his pocket. A face too calm for someone who wasn't supposed to be here. His eyes moved from Duwan to Naya peeking from behind him, then to the folder in Duwan's hand. A flicker of recognition flashed across his expression. "Chairman," he said with a polite bow, voice smooth, "my apologies for the late hour. I was told there was an urgent delivery for you." Duwan didn't blink. "By who?" The man smiled lightly. "Vice President Min." Naya's breath caught. She didn't know the internal politics of Halcyon Group, but she'd heard the staff whisper that Vice President Min was the only person who dared speak to Duwan without trembling. The man stepped forward, too casually. "If you hand me the folder," he said, "I'll deliver it directly to—" "Stop," Duwan said. The man froze mid-step. The silence that followed wasn't normal silence. It was the kind that pressed against the walls, crushing, heavy, dangerous. You're not one of Min's men, Du Huan murmured. The man didn't flinch, but his fingers twitched, and that tiny movement was enough. Du Huan pulled the gun. Naya gasped, her hand instinctively gripping the back of his coat, not to stop him, just to anchor herself so she wouldn't collapse. The man's mask of calm cracked. Not fear, annoyance, like someone whose plans had just been inconvenienced. You're making this difficult, he said quietly. Du Huan stepped forward, positioning his body protectively in front of Naya. You entered a restricted elevator. You tried to intercept a contract that wasn't addressed to you, and you came to my floor without authorization. He tilted his head slightly, voice dropping. That's not difficult. That's treason. The man didn't answer, didn't deny it. Instead, he slowly reached into his jacket. Naya's breath hitched, her whole body tensed. Du Huan spoke without looking back. Close your eyes. The moment she obeyed, a single click echoed through the hallway. Not loud, not violent, just final. Naya flinched. She didn't know what happened. She didn't want to know. Her heart raced so fast it felt like it might tear itself apart. When Du Huan spoke again, his voice was steady. Look. She opened her eyes slowly. The man lay on the floor, unmoving, not dead. She could see the faint rise and fall of his chest. Du Huan hadn't killed him, just knocked him out cleanly, quietly, neatly, like someone who'd done it 1,000 times without missing a beat. But the part that terrified her wasn't the unconscious man. It was the way Du Huan lowered the gun as calmly as if he just turned off a light. He wasn't shaken. He wasn't surprised. He wasn't bothered. Violence lived in him like a familiar language. Naya took a shaky breath. Why would he come after the contract? He wasn't after the contract. Du Huan crouched down beside the man, checking his pockets. He was after you. Her knees nearly buckled. Me? You witnessed the swap, he said. Whoever planned this didn't expect a housekeeper's daughter to interfere. That makes you a loose end. Her pulse surged. She grabbed the edge of the marble table beside her to stay upright. Du Huan rose to his feet and lifted his gaze to her, slowly, deliberately, as if weighing something. Not her mistake, not her fear, her worth. Then he walked toward her. Each step was controlled, measured. He stopped so close she felt the warmth of his breath against her forehead. Naya, he said softly, as if tasting her name. From the moment you walked into that hallway, your life changed. Her voice trembled. Did I make things worse? No, his eyes softened. Barely. You exposed a betrayal I needed to know about. A beat. And you did without asking for anything in return. She didn't know how to respond. The rain outside thundered against the windows, filling the silence between them. He gently pried her fingers off the table, noticing her trembling. She tried to pull away, embarrassed, but he held her hand firmly. Not hard, not dominating, just steady. You're shaking, he murmured. I'm fine. You're not. The honesty in his voice nearly unraveled her. Before she could say anything, his phone buzzed. He checked the caller ID. His expression turned to steel. They move faster than I expected, he muttered. He stepped away, answering the call in Korean, low. Clipped phrases Naya couldn't fully understand, but she caught enough. Surveillance breach. Internal mole. Covered up immediately. Bring her downstairs. Her. When he hung up, he didn't explain. He didn't give her time to breathe. He grabbed her wrist, gently but with purpose. We're leaving, he said. Leaving? Her voice cracked. Where are you taking me? Somewhere they can't reach you. Her heart thundered. But my mother, she'll be protected. But... He turned to face her fully, his eyes dark and unyielding. I will not let anyone touch you, he said. Not after what you risked for me. The elevator doors reopened behind them, as if the building itself obeyed him. Naya stared at him. This powerful, untouchable man, who now spoke to her like her life, mattered more than the marble beneath their feet. She took a breath. Her world spun. Her fate shifted. And she stepped into the elevator with him. The door slid shut. The descent began. But before the elevator reached the private garage, the lights flickered again. The floor shuddered. The alarm blared a second time, sharper than before. Doo-Won looked up at the red flashing light above them. They found us. The elevator jolted violently. Naya fell into him, and the cables above them screeched with a sound that promised something worse than a fall. A crash, an attack, an ambush. The entire elevator dropped 3 floors in an instant, then stopped, dead still, suspended in the dark. The elevator hung suspended in the dark, the cables above groaning like something alive and angry. Naya's breath caught in her throat as a small emergency light flickered weakly, painting their faces in a dim red glow. Her fingers clutched the front of Doo-Won's coat without realizing it. He didn't push her away. His arms circled around her waist a moment. The elevator jerked again, pulling her firmly against him, steadying her as if he'd done this 1,000 times. His breath brushed her temple, warm and calm in a moment that felt anything but. "Don't move," he murmured. She couldn't even speak, could barely breathe. "Someone cut the power to the elevator," he said, scanning the ceiling, the control panel, every corner of the small box they were trapped in. This wasn't an accident. Naya swallowed hard. "They're trying to kill us?" "No," his fingers brushed her jaw as he tilted her face toward his, making sure she wasn't hurt. "They're trying to isolate us." That wasn't comforting. Not at all. The elevator gave another violent shudder, the cables whining above them. Naya pressed her hand against her chest, feeling her heart racing like it might burst through her ribs. Doo-Won moved, slow, deliberate, guiding her back until she felt the elevator wall behind her. He kept his hand on her shoulder, grounding her. His voice lowered. "Naya." She lifted her eyes. "You need to trust me," he said. She didn't know him. Not really. But something deep inside her, something frightening and instinctive, already did. "I do," she whispered. He held her gaze for a lingering second, as if the words struck him harder than the threat surrounding them. The lights flickered again, then died completely. Darkness swallowed everything. Naya's fingers reflexively tightened around the fabric of his coat. Her breath came quicker, uneven. "Hey," he murmured. Not stern, not cold. "Stay close." His hand slid down her arm until his fingers intertwined with hers. A soft, steady hold. Not ownership, assurance. He took out his phone. The faint blue glow lit his face, sharpening every angle, turning him into something carved out of shadow and steel. He typed quickly. "Backup is 5 minutes away," he said. Her voice cracked. "We might not have 5 minutes." He exhaled slowly. "Then we'll make it." A loud metallic snap rang through the elevator shaft. Naya nearly screamed. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Doo-Won pushed her behind him instantly, his body becoming a barrier, solid and immovable. He drew his gun with silent precision, raising it toward the ceiling. The emergency speaker crackled. A distorted voice slipped through the static. "Chairman Beck." Doo-Won's gaze sharpened. Naya felt her blood turn cold. The voice continued, mocking, calm, too confident. "You should have ignored the girl. Now you both pay the price." Naya's stomach twisted. Her throat tightened. The speaker cut off. Doo-Won's voice dropped into something deadly. "Cowards," he muttered. "Can't even face me in person." He turned to her slightly. "Don't listen to anything they say. They're trying to scare you." "It's working," she whispered. His jaw tightened. "I know." Another jolt hit the elevator. Harder. The floor tilted to one side, sending Naya stumbling. She collided with him, and he caught her with one arm, pulling her tight against his chest, shielding her. "Hold on to me," he said. She grabbed him without hesitation, because the moment she touched him, she felt anchored, grounded, alive. He angled his phone upward again, lighting the ceiling panel. "I can get us out," he said. "You know how to escape a falling elevator?" she breathed. His lips twitched, not a smile. Something darker. "I know how to escape anything." He put the phone between his teeth, freeing both hands. His coat brushed against her as he reached upward, gripping the maintenance panel and tugging. The metal bent under his strength. Naya watched in stunned silence as he used raw physical force to rip open part of the ceiling. Dust fell. Cold air drifted down. her fear mixed with awe. This man wasn't normal. A sudden grinding noise shook the entire elevator. The cable strained again, screaming under the pressure. Naya pressed her fist to her mouth, eyes wide. It's going to fall. Look at me, Duan said sharply. Her eyes snapped to his. I said look at me, not the walls. She swallowed. Oh, okay. The elevator jerked again. Hard. She yelped and grabbed onto him with both hands. His palm cupped the back of her head protectively, pressing her cheek against his chest so she wouldn't hit anything. Then he whispered something she never expected. You're safe. Her breath caught. You're with me, he said. I don't lose the people I protect. Thunder cracked outside the building, and then a violent pull downward. The elevator dropped 3 more floors in a free fall. Naya screamed before she could stop herself. Her stomach lurched into her throat. She clung to him, nails digging into his coat, the world spiraling into terror. Du-Wan shoved her to the floor and wrapped his body around hers, shielding her completely. His arms locked around her head and shoulders, protecting everything fragile. Glass rattled. Metal twisted. The elevator plummeted, then slammed to a brutal stop. The impact knocked the breath from Naya's lungs. For a moment, she couldn't hear anything except the ringing in her ears. Du-Wan stayed over her, unmoving, braced like a human shield even after the danger passed. His breath was ragged against her hair. His hand was still cradling her skull, making sure nothing could hurt her. Seconds passed before he whispered, Naya, are you hurt? She shook her head, trembling. No, you covered me. He exhaled. Relief flickered across his features, an emotion so rare she could tell he wasn't used to feeling it. Then he lifted his head, listening. Voices. Footsteps. Multiple. Coming from above. Naya's heart froze. They're not here to save us, are they? She whispered. His eyes darkened like midnight. No. The footsteps grew louder, closer, stopping right above the broken elevator. Du-Wan reached for the opening he'd created in the ceiling earlier. Come here, he said, extending his hand. Naya hesitated only for a second, then placed her hand in his. He pulled her up gently, guiding her to stand. The elevator groaned again under their feet, threatening another drop. He lifted her by the waist, helping her reach the opening. She grabbed the edges, her arms shaking. Don't look down, he said softly. I wasn't planning to, she whispered shakily. He pushed her upward, slow at first, then faster as the voices above shifted. Then a sudden shadow leaned over the shaft, looking down directly at them. Naya froze. Du-Wan lifted his gun and fired once, the sound echoing through the shaft. The shadow disappeared. He grabbed Naya's hand again, voice sharper now. Climb. She climbed. He followed. They reached a narrow service platform above the elevator, both breathing hard, both covered in dust and fear. Naya turned to him, chest heaving. What happens now? Du-Wan looked at her, eyes burning with something fierce and protective. Now, he said, we stop running. He reached for her hand again, and we find out who wants you dead. The night air felt colder than usual, as if the city itself sensed a storm forming around them. Jia walked beside Min-jae in silence, her fingers nervously twisting around each other. The echo of the confrontation still clung to her chest, her ex's arrogant laugh, Min-jae's clenched jaw, the moment she had pulled him back before he could destroy the man with a single punch. He hadn't spoken a word since. Min-jae was dangerous when quiet. Are you angry? Jia finally asked, her voice small. Min-jae stopped walking. He turned to her slowly, his expression unreadable under the streetlight. I'm not angry at you, he said, his voice low, deep and steady. I'm angry that someone like him ever made you feel small. Jia swallowed, caught off guard by the gentleness beneath his rough tone. You defended me, she whispered. You shouldn't have needed to defend anything. He took a step closer. Especially not against a man who treated you like you were disposable. I almost lost control. His jaw tightened again, but this time it wasn't from rage. It was shame. Jia shook her head softly. You didn't lose control. If anything, you protected me. Min Jae looked away as if trying to hide the flicker of emotion that threatened to show. I don't want you to ever be afraid of me. I'm not, she said immediately. He exhaled, slow and heavy, like he'd been holding the breath for hours. Then he lifted his hand, hesitant, unsure, and brushed a stray lock of hair from her face. His fingertips lingered for a moment longer than necessary, sending a quiet tremor through her. You're shaking, he murmured. Because you keep getting this close, she replied before she could stop herself. Min Jae froze. A faint smirk tugged at the corner of his lips, but his eyes burned in a way that made her stomach flip. Then I'll step back, he said, yet he didn't move. Instead, he leaned in closer. Jia's breath hitched, but before he could say anything more, the buzzing of his phone cut sharply through the moment. He checked it, and his expression instantly shifted. Hard, cold, dangerous. What's wrong? Jia asked. Trouble, he said simply. And it's coming from the same man who embarrassed you tonight. She felt her chest tighten. My ex. Min Jae slipped the phone into his pocket. He's not just an ex. He's connected to someone who's been trying to get to me. Her blood ran cold. Jia, he continued, his tone darkening. This is bigger than anything you think. And now, because of tonight, you're officially in the middle of it. Her breath trembled. What are you saying? Min Jae stepped closer, his protective aura swallowing her whole. I'm saying I won't let anything happen to you. Not while I'm alive. His words were a promise, a warning, and a beginning of something far more dangerous than either of them was prepared for. Jia felt her heartbeat stumble as Min Jae's words settled between them like a vow sealed in fire. Not while I'm alive. No one had ever said something like that to her. Not with that tone. Not with that kind of certainty. It was terrifying and comforting all at once. Why would he try to get to you? She asked, voice trembling despite her efforts to stay calm. Min Jae's eyes darkened in a way she hadn't seen before. Because the man backing him wants the one thing he thinks only I can give. And what is that? He hesitated. And Min Jae never hesitated. That's not something I can tell you yet. His voice softened. Not until I know you're safe. Jia looked down, her fingers curling. And what if I don't want to be kept in the dark? He stepped closer, lifting her chin gently so she had no choice but to look at him. Then you stay close to me, he said. Not a step away. Her breath hitched, not because of fear, but because he was too close again, too intense, too much for her fluttering heart. He watched her with those unreadable, obsidian-dark eyes that seemed to see straight through her walls. I'm not used to this, she admitted. Someone fighting for me. Min Jae's jaw tightened. You deserve someone who would burn the world if it touched you the wrong way. The air shifted. Suddenly a sleek black car slid to a stop beside them. One of Min Jae's men stepped out immediately. Boss, we have a situation, the man said, eyes flicking cautiously toward Jia as if he wasn't sure how much he should hear. Min Jae didn't look away from her. Talk. It's the guy from earlier. He went straight to a private club after you left. Word is he's been running his mouth about her and about you. Jia winced. What did he say? Min Jae's expression turned ice cold. You don't need to hear that. But that only made her panic spike. Min Jae. He cut her off by taking her hand. The gesture was unexpected, warm, grounding. You're coming with me, he said. If he thinks he can use you to get to me, he needs to learn how wrong he is. Jia felt a wave of fear, but it wasn't fear of Min Jae. It was fear of what he was willing to do. Inside the car, the silence was thick. Every few minutes, Min Jae would glance at her, as if checking she was still there, still safe. She could see how tightly he held himself together. Not for him, but for her. The car rolled to a stop outside a private underground club, neon lights flickering against the slick pavement. Music thumped from deep inside, the kind of place where trouble never walked alone. Stay behind me, he murmured. She nodded. As they stepped inside, heads turned. Not because of Jia, but because Min Jae, the man everyone whispered about, had brought someone with him, someone he was clearly protecting. They found her ex at the bar, laughing too loudly with a group of men who suddenly stopped talking when they saw who had walked in. Jia felt Min Jae's hand slide to the small of her back. Quiet, protective, possessive. Her ex stumbled to his feet. What do you want?" he stammered, trying to sound bold but failing miserably. Min Jae's voice was dangerously calm. "You're going to apologize to her." The room froze. Her ex blinked. "For what?" "She's the one who—" Min Jae's fist slammed into the table beside him so hard the glasses jumped. Everyone flinched. That was not a request. Jia grabbed Min Jae's arm instinctively. "Min Jae, don't." He turned to her immediately, the fury in his eyes softening the moment he saw her face. Her hand on his arm was the only thing preventing the club from turning into a battlefield. Her ex swallowed hard. "I'm sorry. For earlier. I shouldn't have done that." John nodded, but Min Jae stepped closer, his voice dropping low enough for only the man to hear. "If you ever go near her again, not even God will protect you." Her ex dropped back into his seat, pale and shaking. Min Jae took Ja's hand again and guided her out, ignoring the murmurs following them. Once outside, she exhaled shakily. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes," Min Jae said quietly. "I did." He looked at her, and for the first time, something vulnerable flickered in his expression. "I told you," he whispered, brushing his thumb over her hand. "I protect what's mine." Jia's heart stopped. What do you mean yours?" she whispered. Min Jae's lips curved, not into a smirk, but something much softer, much more dangerous. "Exactly what you think it means." Her world spun, and before she could respond, a sudden vibration shook Min Jae's phone again, and the look that crossed his face this time was worse than before. "Ja," he said, voice dropping. "We need to leave. Someone just put a target on you." Jia froze. "A target?" Her voice came out thin, almost swallowed by the night air. Min Jae didn't answer immediately. His jaw clenched as he read the message again, eyes narrowing with sharp, silent fury that made her skin prickle. His men were already tightening formation around them. "Get the car," he ordered, his tone leaving no room for hesitation. Jia's pulse thudded. "Min Jae, what does that mean?" "Who would target me?" He finally looked at her, and that was what scared her the most, because for the first time since meeting him, Min Jae didn't try to soften the truth. "Someone who thinks hurting you will break me," he said quietly. Her breath stuttered. "Break you? Why would—" He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Because you matter to me more than they expected." Her heart gave a painful flutter. I don't understand. Why me? I'm just—" "No," his tone sharpened. "Don't finish that sentence." The car screeched to a stop in front of them. Min Jae opened the door and guided her inside, but before she could sit, he leaned in close. Too close. His breath brushing her cheek. "You're not just anything," he murmured. "Not anymore." The words wrapped around her like a dangerous promise. Inside the car, the world outside blurred into streaks of city lights. Min Jae didn't speak for several minutes, fingers drumming against his knee, a sign of tension she'd never seen in him before. His men were speaking in rapid Korean in the front seat, but the tone alone told her something was very, very wrong. "Where are we going?" she asked quietly. "To a safe house," he said. "One only my closest circle knows exists." "Is this because of the contract switch?" she asked. He looked at her sharply, as if impressed she connected the dots. "That's part of it," he admitted. "But it's deeper than that." "How deep?" He exhaled, a sound full of frustration and something like fear. "Enough that you're now tangled in a war you didn't choose." Jia swallowed. "Then untangle me." Min Jae turned in his seat, eyes locking onto hers with an intensity that made the air between them shiver. "I can't." "Why not?" "Because they already saw you with me," he said. "Because you're not invisible to them anymore. Because hurting you is the fastest way to get to me." Jia's chest tightened painfully. "I never asked for this." "I know." His voice softened. "And that's why I'm going to fix it." The car slowed as they entered a narrow alley leading to a luxurious but unmarked building. As soon as the vehicle stopped, two guards stepped out of the shadows, bowing deeply. She almost didn't notice she was shaking, until Min Jae gently touched her hand. Ja, he said, look at me. She did. You are not alone in this, he told her. Not as long as I'm breathing. The sincerity in his voice made her eyes sting. She nodded wordlessly. Inside the safe house, the silence was thick and sterile. The hallway lights cast a soft, golden glow over marble floors and sleek walls. Everything felt expensive, but lonely. Min Jae's men spread out, securing every corner. One of them approached with a tablet. Boss, we tracked the threat message. It came from a burner phone in Gangnam. We think it's connected to... Min Jae raised a hand. Later. The man bowed and stepped away. Jia watched him silently. He looked exhausted, not physically, but emotionally, weighted by something he was carrying alone. Sit, he said gently, guiding her to a plush sofa. You need rest. She shook her head. I can't rest when I don't even know what's happening. Min Jae hesitated, then took a seat across from her, elbows on his knees, head bowed for a moment before he finally spoke. There's a man named Seo Dae-hyun, he began. A broker. He handles contracts, the kind that can ruin entire families. Jia's breath caught. The man who swapped the folder? Yes. And the contract he switched isn't just about money. It's tied to a power shift inside the syndicate. They want me out. Her stomach dropped. Out like removed? Or dead, he said simply. The word hung in the room like a noose. And the man behind the contract? He continued. He believes you're the key to forcing me into a corner. Jia felt her blood run cold. But I don't know anything. Why would I be a threat? You're not, Min Jae said softly. You're leverage. Jia stared at him, a wave of guilt twisting her chest. So this is all because I saw something I wasn't supposed to? No. He leaned closer, his voice deep and low. This is happening because I care about you in a way that makes them think you're my weakness. The air between them shifted, intimate, electric, intense. Jia swallowed hard. Am I? He didn't even blink. Yes. Her pulse jumped. Min Jae stood slowly and walked to her, stopping only inches away. He reached out, brushing a stray curl from her cheek before letting his fingers linger against her skin. You're the first thing I think about when things go wrong, he confessed. That makes you powerful. And dangerous. Jia's breath trembled. So what happens now? We let them believe they can use you, he said with a dark, calculated calm. And then I destroyed whoever sent that message. Jia shivered, not from fear of him, but from the way he said it. Controlled, deadly, unshakably determined. Min Jae, she whispered. His hand slid down, fingers tracing her jaw, settling gently beneath her chin. You're safe with me, he murmured, even if the whole world turns against us. Her eyes lifted to his, and for a split second, the space between them felt thin, electric, inevitable. Then the moment shattered. A loud bang echoed from the hallway. A door slammed. One of Min Jae's men shouted, Boss! They found us. Min Jae's eyes sharpened, and everything inside him shifted. The protector was gone. The Mafia king had awakened. The sound of breaking glass tore through the safe house like a scream. Jia yelped, gripping Min Jae's arm, and he immediately pivoted, eyes blazing with lethal focus. They're here, he said, voice low but charged with energy that made the walls themselves tremble. The men in the room moved like shadows, positioning themselves instantly. But Min Jae didn't wait. His hand gripped Jia's tightly. Stay behind me. Don't make a sound. She nodded, heart hammering against her ribs. Every nerve in her body screamed danger. The front door burst open with a violent crash. Dark silhouettes spilled into the hallway, armed, masked, and moving with predatory precision. Jia could barely see them through the dim light, but Min Jae's presence eclipsed everything else. He stepped forward, every motion smooth, deliberate, deadly. Whoever sent you? His voice was calm, but the words were coated in a razor-sharp edge. Is about to regret it. One of the attackers lunged toward Jia's side, and Min Jae was on him before the man even realized she was there. A punch, a shove, a movement so fluid it seemed choreographed, and the intruder went down like a puppet cut from its strings. Jia's eyes widened. She had never seen anyone move like him, like he was dancing with death, and every step was precise. Another man charged. Min Jae sidestepped, grabbed him by the collar, and slammed him into the wall. The impact rattled through the room. Blood and sweat mixed with the stench of fear. Jia wanted to scream, to intervene, but his gaze caught hers. A single flick of his eyes told her to stay still. The attackers hesitated for a split second, and that was all Min Jae needed. He moved again. Each strike was deliberate, controlled, a dangerous ballet. His fists, his feet, even the subtle shifts of his weight conveyed authority, dominance, and raw power. A heavy silence fell between the bursts of violence. One intruder was unconscious. Another limped back in shock. And then, from the far end of the hallway, a voice rang out. Beck, Min Jae. Jia's breath caught. The man who had orchestrated this chaos stepped forward. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a sharp black suit that seemed to absorb the dim light. His mask was gone, revealing a cold, calculating face that made her stomach twist. You protect the girl, yet you still come to my doorstep, he said, voice smooth, deadly. Brave or foolish? Min Jae's lips curved just slightly, but his eyes didn't leave the man. Neither. Necessary. The intruder smirked, stepping closer, every movement deliberate and menacing. I see why she matters. But why do you care? She's just a pawn. You're predictable, Min Jae. Jia shivered at the words. Her hand instinctively found Min Jae's, and he squeezed hers, softly, a quiet anchor amidst the storm. Min Jae didn't respond immediately. He stepped closer, closing the space between them. I'm not predictable, he said quietly, and I don't let anyone touch what's mine. The intruder laughed, a cold, grating sound. We'll see about that. And then the fight erupted again. Min Jae moved like a shadow, striking, twisting, dodging. The sound of fists connecting with flesh, bodies crashing into walls, and low, gritted groans filled the room. Jia's eyes were wide, her chest tight, as she realized just how much danger surrounded them, and how effortlessly Min Jae seemed to navigate it. One of the men lunged toward Jia. She froze. But before she could scream, Min Jae was there, a wall of muscle and intention, deflecting the man effortlessly. You are not a target, he said, voice low, deadly, right in her ear. Not while I'm here. Her heart thundered, not from fear this time, but from something more complicated, something raw and undeniable. Another attacker appeared behind Min Jae. He spun, his foot connecting with the man's chest, sending him flying into the wall. The impact rattled the room. Jia's breath hitched. She had never seen anything like this in her life. Every motion, every strike, every subtle step was poetry and violence intertwined. Then the intruder who had orchestrated this mess, the man in the black suit, stepped forward again, pulling out a knife. Jia's stomach dropped. Min Jae's gaze sharpened. Don't even think about it. The man lunged, knife flashing in the dim light. Min Jae was faster. So fast it almost didn't look real. He grabbed the intruder's wrist, twisted, and the knife clattered to the floor. In one fluid motion, he slammed the man into the wall, then pinned him to the ground. Jia's knees nearly buckled. Min Jae, she whispered, voice trembling. He looked at her for a brief moment, and even amidst the chaos, his eyes softened. I told you, I protect what's mine. The intruder gasped, struggling against his hold, but Min Jae's grip didn't falter, not even a little. Then the sound of sirens approached from outside. Police? Or something else? Min Jae didn't wait. He pulled Jia closer, scanning the room. We're not done yet, but we have a window. He tossed the intruder to the ground, making sure he was immobilized but alive, always precise, always controlled. Then he turned fully to Jia. Stay close, he said. From now on, you don't leave my side. Not for a second. Jia nodded, swallowing hard. Her chest was tight with fear, exhilaration, and something else. Something she couldn't quite name. Min Jae's eyes swept the room one last time. And someone needs to pay for thinking they could touch you. The intruder groaned from the floor, but Min Jae ignored him. He moved to the exit, Gia at his side, every step calculated, every movement deliberate. The night outside was cold, wet with rain that reflected the city lights like shards of broken glass. But in that moment, Gia felt a strange sense of safety. Not because the world was safe, far from it, but because Min-jae was there, and she knew, without question, that he would go to the ends of the earth to protect her. As they disappeared into the shadows of the city, Gia couldn't help but wonder who was strong enough to break a man like Min-jae, and more importantly, would she be caught in the crossfire when they tried? The rain had turned the streets of Seoul into a slick mirror, reflecting neon lights that danced across puddles like fragmented memories. Gia's coat clung to her, soaked, but she didn't notice. Her eyes were fixed on Min-jae, who moved ahead of her with lethal precision, scanning every shadow as if the darkness itself carried a threat. She shivered, not from cold, but from the intensity radiating from him. "Are we safe?" she asked quietly, voice barely audible over the patter of rain. Min-jae didn't look at her immediately. His eyes flicked toward a narrow alley, then back to her. "Safe is a word I don't use lightly. Not anymore." She bit her lip. "Then what are we?" "Protected," he said simply. "For now." Gia tried to absorb the meaning, but the knot of fear in her chest wouldn't loosen. Every second since the safe house attack had been a reminder that danger was never far behind. They stopped at an unmarked door tucked between two shuttered shops. Min-jae tapped a code into a keypad, and the door clicked open. Inside was a small, dimly lit apartment, Spartan but secure. Surveillance cameras lined the walls. Multiple screens displayed different parts of the city. "Your new reality," Min-jae said, gesturing. "We stay here. We wait. We watch." Gia sat on the edge of the bed, feeling the weight of the world press down on her. How am I supposed to live like this? Hiding, running, waiting for someone to attack. Min-jae crouched in front of her, hands on her knees, making her look up at him. His gaze was intense, unwavering. "You don't live like this. You survive. And surviving is a lot easier when you're with me." Her chest tightened. "I don't even know who I can trust anymore." He shook his head slightly, a wry, dangerous smile tugging at his lips. "Trust me. That's all you need to know." For a moment, silence fell. Then a faint beep from one of the surveillance monitors caught Min-jae's attention. His eyes sharpened instantly. "Someone's approaching," he muttered. Gia jumped to her feet. "Who?" He didn't answer. Instead, he moved to the door, signaling for her to stay back. She hesitated but obeyed, heart pounding like a drum in her chest. Minutes later, a sleek black car pulled up outside. Two men in suits stepped out, moving quickly but cautiously. Min-jae's hand never left the gun holstered at his side. Gia's stomach churned. "Are they here to hurt us?" Min-jae didn't answer. He opened a window slightly, whispering into a hidden device. A moment later, the men froze, glancing around nervously. One of them pulled out a small envelope and tossed it toward the building. Min-jae caught it midair, ripped it open. Inside was a single photo of Gia, taken that morning. Her coffee in hand, the way she laughed at something on her phone. Her breath caught. They've been watching me?" Min-jae's jaw tightened. "Yes, and now they're sending a message." He folded the photo, slipping it into his pocket, and turned to her. "Ja, you need to understand something. They want to scare you, but you're not just anyone. You're connected to me. That makes you dangerous." She shook her head, tears threatening to spill. "I didn't ask for any of this." "No," he said softly, stepping closer, placing a hand on her cheek. "But now it's your life, and mine, and I don't let anyone hurt what's mine." The intimacy of his touch made her heart lurch. But before she could respond, another alert on the monitor caught his eye. His body stiffened. "They're moving again, much closer this time." Gia grabbed his arm. "Then what do we do?" He took a deep breath, a rare flicker of vulnerability crossing his features before the mask of the Mafia boss returned. "We prepare, we fight, and we make them regret underestimating us." The screens in the room flickered, showing shadowy figures moving through the alleyways toward their building. Gia swallowed hard. Fear pooled in her stomach, But a strange resolve rose as she looked at Min Jae. "If I'm with you, I fight too?" she asked, voice trembling but firm. He didn't hesitate. "Yes, together." The weight of his words settled over her, fierce and unyielding. She realized in that moment that she wasn't just his responsibility. She was his partner, in danger and in everything that came after. The sound of footsteps and the hum of the approaching threat filled the room. Min Jae moved to secure the entrances, his movements precise and confident. Jia took a deep breath, standing beside him, heart pounding, not just from fear, but from the undeniable pull between them. The night outside was alive with danger. Inside, their bond grew stronger, forged in the quiet moments before the storm and the electricity of the chaos that was about to erupt. And then a deafening crash shattered windows. The attackers had reached them. Min Jae's eyes blazed with fury. He grabbed Ja's hand, his grip tight, protective, and unrelenting. "Stay close," he commanded. "And don't look away." Jia's pulse raced, adrenaline surging as a first wave of intruders burst into the room. The battle had only just begun. The room erupted into chaos. Broken glass littered the floor, reflecting the harsh glow of the overhead lights like shards of a shattered dream. Jia clung to Min Jae's arm, trying to keep her balance as men in black stormed the apartment, guns drawn, knives flashing. "Stay behind me." Min Jae barked, moving with the deadly grace that had kept him alive so far. Jia felt her heart hammering, fear and adrenaline twisting together. She had never seen anyone fight like him, like a force of nature, precise, controlled, merciless. Every punch, every kick, every shove was calculated. Nothing wasted. One intruder lunged at her. Min Jae intercepted, his arm swinging in a deadly arc that sent the man sprawling across the room. Jia's breath caught. "Are you okay?" he asked, voice low, almost intimate amidst the chaos. Yes," she stammered, clutching his coat. "I'm fine." He didn't waste another word. His eyes scanned the room, calculating hunting. From the corner, a man stepped forward, taller, broader, with an air of authority that even Min Jae's men hesitated to challenge. It was the orchestrator, the man behind the attacks. Seo Daehyun. "You think hiding her will save you?" Seo sneered, knife glinting under the harsh lights. "She's the reason you're vulnerable," becked Min Jae. Min Jae's jaw tightened. "She is not your pawn." Seo laughed, a sound that made Jia's blood run cold. "She's everything. And through her, I get what I want." Min Jae stepped forward, his movement fluid, deadly. "You'll get nothing. Not from me. Not from her." Jia felt the pull of his presence, magnetic, protective, and terrifying. She had never felt so small and so safe at the same time. Seo lunged knife first. Min Jae sidestepped, twisting his body and sending the attacker crashing into the wall. The sound echoed, bone against plaster. "Ja!" Min Jae said sharply, his eyes locking onto hers. "Listen to me. Stay close. Do not leave my side." She nodded, gripping his arm, the intensity of the moment crushing in on her. The room descended into a blur motion. Min Jae moved like a shadow, striking, dodging, and taking down every attacker that came near. Jia wanted to scream, to intervene, but his eyes, burning with focus, kept her frozen in place. Seo Daehyun watched, amusement flickering across his face, before he stepped forward again, knife ready. "You think you can beat me? You're a legend in your world, Min Jae, but in mine." Min Jae's fist slammed into Seo's chest, knocking him backward with a force that made him hit the floor hard. Blood trickled from the corner of Seo's mouth, but he wasn't finished. He got up, knife raised. Jia's stomach twisted. "Min Jae," but he only smiled, dark, dangerous, and utterly certain. "She's mine. Remember that." He moved with blinding speed, disarming Seo and pinning him against the wall. His grip was iron, his eyes unyielding. "You won't touch her. Not ever." Seo struggled, but it was futile. Min Jae's strength, his control, his determination, it was absolute. Jia's breath came in sharp, shallow gasps. She had never seen anyone command a room like this. Every move Min Jae made screamed power, authority, and an unshakable devotion to her. The remaining intruders hesitated, uncertainty flickering across their faces. Min Jae's voice cut through the tension like a blade. Leave, now, or face the consequences. One by one, they retreated, dragging Seo with them. But Min Jae didn't release him. His gaze was lethal, cold, and impossible to ignore. You think this ends here? Seo spat, blood dripping. This is only the beginning. You haven't seen the real threat yet. Min Jae didn't flinch. Then let them come. I'll be waiting. He finally turned to Jia, his expression softening, the storm within him settling slightly. He lifted her hand to his lips, pressing a fleeting, protective kiss to her knuckles. You're safe now, he said quietly. For now. Her chest heaved with relief and adrenaline, but a lingering fear remained. If this was only the beginning, what was coming next? And in the silence that followed, Jia realized just how deep she had fallen for him. Not for the danger, not for the power, but for the man who would burn the world to protect her. Min Jae's voice broke her thoughts. Stay with me tonight. Don't leave my side. Not even for a moment. Jia nodded, leaning against him. The storm outside reflected the storm inside, a world of danger, passion, and unbreakable bonds. And somewhere in the shadows, Seo Dae-hyun's threat lingered, promising that the battle in their hearts had only just begun. The dawn broke over Seoul, the first rays of light cutting through the remnants of the night storm. Streets glistened with rain, neon reflections fading as the city slowly woke. But inside the safe house, the tension hadn't lifted. Jia sat on the edge of the bed, hands clasped tightly in her lap. Her body ached from adrenaline, fear, and the closeness of the past hours. She hadn't slept. She hadn't breathed fully. But most of all, she hadn't let go of Min Jae's presence. He moved silently around the room, checking surveillance feeds, scanning emails, and listening to encrypted messages. Every detail mattered. Every threat was a puzzle to solve, and Min Jae didn't fail. Jia watched him, the familiar mix of fear and awe in her chest. Min Jae, she whispered. What now? He turned slowly, eyes softening as they landed on her. Now we end this, once and for all. Her stomach twisted. The man, Seo Dae-hyun. His expression hardened, jaw tight. He won't get the chance to hurt anyone again. They moved out together, the quiet of the morning streets masking the storm they were about to unleash. Min Jae drove with precision, his men coordinating every move through discreet channels. Jia's pulse raced, not just from fear, but from the electricity that always surged when she was near him. They arrived at a secluded warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Seo Dae-hyun and his lieutenants were there, unaware of the precision strike that awaited them. Min Jae didn't hesitate. Jia, stay behind me. Watch, but don't interfere. Jia nodded, clutching his coat, feeling the magnetic pull of his presence. She had never felt safer and more exposed. At the same time, the door burst open, and Min Jae's men moved with military precision. Chaos erupted immediately, shouts and the clash of bodies filling the space. But Min Jae moved like a shadow, cutting through the room, disarming, controlling, asserting dominance over the danger that dared to stand before him. Finally, he confronted Seo Dae-hyun. The man smirked, thinking he could face Min Jae alone. He underestimated the storm. You think you can hurt what's mine? Min Jae's voice was ice and fire. This ends now. Seo lunged, knife raised. Min Jae moved faster than thought, slamming the man to the ground, pinning him with a grip that left no room for resistance. I warned you, Min Jae said softly, almost gently, though his eyes burned with lethal intent. Don't touch her. Don't ever. You are finished. Seo struggled, but Min Jae's strength, focus, and unyielding determination crushed every attempt. His lieutenants surrendered as Min Jae's men secured the area. Jia stepped forward finally, her voice shaking but firm. It's over. Min Jae turned to her, his usual wall of stoicism softening. He lifted her hand to his lips, kissing it gently. It's over. You're safe. Her chest heaved as relief washed over her, tears brimming. I don't know how to thank you. He cupped her face with both hands. The tenderness in his eyes belied the danger he had just conquered. You don't have to. Just stay with me. She nodded, heart overflowing, as the weight of the past days, the fear, the danger, the adrenaline, finally gave way to something else. Something tender. Something real. Outside, the city awoke to sunlight and the distant hum of life. Inside, two souls, battered and tested, found a quiet victory. Min Jae pulled her close, resting his forehead against hers. No one will ever hurt you again, he whispered. I promise. Jia leaned into him, finally letting herself exhale. I trust you, she said softly. He smiled faintly, the first genuine smile she had seen in days. Then we moved forward, together. For the first time since her life had been thrown into chaos, Jia felt a sense of peace, not because the world was safe, but because the man she had come to love, who had promised to protect her at all costs, was by her side. Outside, the sun broke through the clouds fully, casting a golden light over Seoul. Inside, justice had been served, danger had been faced, and a fragile but unbreakable love had been forged. And in the quiet aftermath, Jia realized something she had known all along. Some bonds are forged not just in safety, but in fire, chaos, and the unshakable promise of protection. Min Jae whispered, almost as if reading her thoughts. No one will ever take you from me. Not ever. She smiled through tears, resting her head against his chest. I believe you. The city continued to move around them, but in that moment, the world narrowed to just two hearts, beating in tandem, unyielding, unstoppable.